Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman. And this morning we have with us Brandon Morrow from the law firm of, let's see if I get this right, Kramer Rayson. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, good. Nice to have you with us this morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. Thanks so much for having me on this morning.
Oh, you bet. So I'm drinking my cup of coffee here to keep with the theme of the show. What's your favorite morning beverage?
I'm very simple, black coffee. Usually a glass of water and black coffee is it for me in the morning.
There you go. Simple. That's it. I think the coffee says a lot about people, like the personality.
Yeah. My wife has recently purchased this espresso machine at home. I have no idea how to work it. I just drink the black coffee we have here at the office. So
It's a lot easier. You just pour it in. You don't have to think about it.
that's right.
That means you must get stuff done. You don't waste time.
I try and be as efficient as possible. So
All right, there you go. I think there's something to it. People that like get, mocha frappuccinos and all that stuff.
Right.
I mean, you got to worry about those people. So I know you're in the state of Tennessee. What kind of work you do? Tell everybody what kind of work, what you practice.
Yeah. So I'm an employment lawyer here in East Tennessee, but represent clients from one side of the state to the other, and really have a practice that goes nationwide as well. But I would say 50% of my practice is related to advising business clients on employment related issues. The other 50% is handling those cases if they reach litigation, and representing the employer in all sorts of litigation, whether it's before an administrative agency, a state court, federal court.
Okay. So you're strictly on the defense side, on the employer side.
That's primarily what I do. Through the years, I have represented employees on occasion, but at this point in my career, that's the vast majority of my work is employment defense.
So how'd you get there? Like, tell us about that.
Yeah, so I came out of law school at a time when the job market was still kind of reeling from the 2008 financial crisis, and I was blessed enough to get a summer position with the firm I'm at right now. Kramer Rayson is the only law firm I've ever worked at, and so Kramer Rayson has a long history in labor and employment law, dating back even to the World War II era, and representing some of the contractors out at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory. So our firm has a deep history in labor and employment law. I started working here as a summer associate, and kind of cut my teeth doing employment law. Really enjoyed it, and so that's what I've decided to continue my practice doing now 10 years later.
Okay, cool. And how did you make the decision to go to law school? Tell us about that.
I can't say that it was the most informed decision I've ever made. I'm lucky that it has been beneficial for me and my family and provided me with a good education. But I knew I wasn't a math and science guy. I could string a sentence or two together pretty well. And so I had a political science degree in undergrad. So what do you do with that? Do you teach? I don't know any political scientists really. So law school was the next logical step, and I'm just lucky that it's worked out well for me. It's provided me with a career that is very provides a lot of satisfaction, getting to help people, and so that's kind of how I ended up in this area.
Cool. Any other lawyers in your family? And was there any influence there? No.
None whatsoever. I don't even know that I had really ever met a lawyer before. It was no lawyers in my family whatsoever, and so really when I showed up at our firm for the first day as a summer associate after my first year of law school, that may have been the first time I'd ever been in a law office.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
no influence whatsoever from my family.
Really? So what?
Other than love and support and all that, but not from a
Sure.
legal perspective.
Well, maybe get in trouble maybe along the way. I don't know.
Perhaps.
So that's interesting. When you say we're Eastern Tennessee, what is it? I'm trying to picture geography. What is it border Eastern Tennessee?
Yeah, so I'm in Knoxville, so I'm sitting here looking out my window at the Great Smoky Mountains National Park right
Oh,
now. So
nice.
we've got I grew up in Southeast Tennessee, so kind of the corner of Georgia, North Carolina, and Tennessee, and
Okay.
then Knoxville is just north of that. But that's kind of where we're situated.
And the main campus, University of Tennessee, is in Knoxville, right?
It is absolutely. I've got my volunteer gear on today. We play Akron this weekend in football, and then we get an SEC game week after with the Florida Gators coming to town. So I'm a
Ooh,
two-time
Gators.
graduate of the University of Tennessee, and quite proud of that.
Oh, good. Yeah. Now I've been to the University of Tennessee before. As a matter of fact, I got a University of Tennessee T-shirt in my closet somewhere.
Hey, good. Break it out this weekend.
No, I mean, I don't know if it's as serious as Gator football, but
It's pretty serious. Yeah, I mean, we'll have. I know they've sold out the Florida game. I think they're darn close to selling out this Akron game, which no one expected.
wow.
So yeah, it's serious. May even be an understatement.
Okay, and what's the rank this year for Tennessee?
Right now, I think we're 15. So we had a big overtime win against ACC champs Pitt last weekend, and so jumped ahead in the rankings a little bit. So true test comes in 2 weekends against Florida. So
Okay. Oh, you played Pitt. It's funny. I went to school right next to Pitt. I went to Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh.
okay,
And it's fine. That's back when they were like Pitt was in their heyday. They had
right.
amazing football back then. So they're pretty strong again.
Yeah. We'll see. We're still very early in the season. There's a lot of hope floating around Volunteer Nation right now.
Yeah.
But we will see. And it's should be a fun season.
Oh, good. All right. Interesting stuff. I mean, I think, where you are and all this, your background shapes sort of what you do in life. That's what I was curious to, like, the path, like how did you get there? Why employment law? Was there something driving that, interest? It's interesting to talk to different lawyers, like how they got there and why it's the right fit for them, what they practice.
Yeah, one thing that I wouldn't say it's how I got here, but one thing that has I have really come to realize over the years practicing in this area, that I really enjoy working with businesses large and small that they're the backbone of our economy, and they provide jobs for everyone in our community, and so I enjoy being able to help them make wise decisions, make decisions that comply with the law, and then representing them if we are in a dispute that ends up in court. And so that's something that I take a great deal of pride in, is representing these businesses, members of our community, that really do kind of drive the economy where we live.
Cool. So give me an example of if there's a typical case that you would work on.
Sure. So a typical case for me would be, let's say that it's an employment discrimination case.
Okay.
And so kind of two different sides to this. Sometimes what will happen is you've got an underperforming employee, and my client calls me and they say, okay, we have an underperforming employee. We've counseled this employee. We think it's time to let them go. And so they will seek my advice about, okay, well, is there any sort of potential liability here? Do you have a potential age discrimination claim on your hands? Do you have a potential discrimination claim from another protected category on your hands? And so I'll evaluate that with them. I might say, yes, I think it's time that we make a change for the betterment of the organization. Or I might say, you know what, let's try this. Let's put them on a performance improvement plan for 30, 60, 90 days, whatever the case may be. See if they improve. If they do, great. You've already invested in this employee. That's fantastic. You don't have to cut them loose and make a change and go through the recruiting process. If they don't, then you at least have documented that you have reached out to this employee, you've given them an opportunity to improve, and they've been able to do so.
Yeah.
So that's the typical, kind of counseling side. On the other side, the litigation side, if there's a dispute that reaches, the courts, then I will represent my client. Usually starts with an administrative stage before the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, before we get to court, and then once we're in the courts, I'll represent them from through every stage of the proceedings. That's from the very opening all the way through trial, and then if there's an appeal. So so that's kind of the two different sides of the coin of what I do.
Yeah, one is sort of on the counseling and advice side, and then if it goes to litigation. So do you suggested that you might actually end up in a jury trial? Has that happened yet?
Yeah. So I actually have had one last August. It was my first chairing a jury trial. Was last August here in state court. And I've got another one in federal court coming up in about a month. So yeah, we
Can
have
you talk about that? The type of
yeah,
case?
sure. It's an employment case. It's a retaliation case. So the retaliation claim is the employee claims that they engaged in protected activity, that they complained about something or another, and then their termination was a result of that. In this particular case, my client had numerous reasons why this employee should have been terminated. And so we look forward to being able to present that to a jury in October. And it's one of those cases that has been affected by the pandemic. Not so much the initial wave of the pandemic, but because of some illness from others involved in the case, we've had to push the trial date a couple of times. So it will be good to see some resolution come October. And we're looking
good. So in that case, I mean, are there damages at stake potentially?
Yeah, there are, but the good thing is, in that particular case, we filed a motion with the court, which was granted in large part, which really diminished the amount of damages available to the plaintiff in that case. And so the case that may have gone from the potential value of $500,000 now has only a fraction of the potential value now.
Is that normal?
And so
is that normal that you would do? Is that normal that you could do that?
Yeah. So depending on the facts of the case, but this was a motion for partial summary judgment, and our argument to the court was that there was no potential way that the plaintiff could recover her attorney fees or punitive damages in the case, and the court agreed with us. And so in this particular case, it really cut the value of the potential claim by a large amount. And our position is there's no liability anyway, and that's what we intend to show to the jury. But from a damages perspective, it is what's on the table now is much less than what it was before.
Oh, I see, because you're cutting out the recovery of attorney fees.
Right.
Is there tort reform around that kind of lawsuit?
Yeah. So in this particular case, there's not, just because of the types of claim. They're employment and statutory related claims rather than just your general tort claims. But in Tennessee, we have seen tort reform. There was a bill passed. Oh gosh, probably not quite 10 years now, but that limits the amount of recovery, and there are kind of different tiers based on the egregiousness of some conduct. But yeah, that has been something that we've seen, and I think it provides some stability for the business community, and so that has been important for a lot of companies, and reasons that they have relocated to Tennessee from other states, perhaps.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, no, I asked that question because I know that obviously that particularly on the plaintiff side, right? You limit. I mean, they're swinging for the fences many times.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. And the counter argument to that is, well, a reasonable jury, which is what you should have in every case, those should be the arbiters of tort reform, right? They should be the ones who come in and say, okay, well, based on this particular case, this is what the value of it is, and you shouldn't have a legislature stepping in to limit the jury's ability to award damages. That's the flip side of the coin.
That's the theory, right? But
Sure.
as we know, sometimes you got to apply some boundaries.
That's right.
Yeah, interesting. So, so that's interesting. So you get to get in front of a jury. Do you like that part of it?
I do. It doesn't happen all that often anymore. I mean, even in the 10 years that I've been practicing, the amount of jury trials we have has lessened quite a bit. But I do enjoy it. If there's an opportunity to have my client dismissed from the case before we reach that point, then obviously that's what we want to do. Sure. Because that's preferred for my client. But if we do have to go in front of a jury, I enjoy that part of it. I like connecting with the people that sit in that jury box. And one thing that I have tried to do throughout my career is I want to be effective on paper. That means when I'm communicating to the court through a written legal brief, I want to be effective that way, but I also want to be equally as effective when I'm presenting a case, in person, live to a jury. And you don't have an opportunity to do that as much. There's a lot more writing than there is making arguments to a jury, but it's still very, very important.
Oh, good. And so how did you prepare for that? Like what kind of tools, and how'd you get ready to make sure your argument was going to resonate?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is bouncing my theories off other lawyers in my office. I work with what I would consider some of the best in the business, and so I am constantly picking the brains of my colleagues. I am unashamedly willing to beg, borrow, and steal things that may have worked for them, with the understanding that it may not necessarily work for me. I've got to test it out and see if the way that they present to a jury, if that works for me. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I have to kind of tweak things and develop my own way to present
your
to a jury.
voice.
That's right.
Your voice. Yeah, for sure. So I saw in your background, it looks like you're involved with a moot court in school too, right?
That's right. So when I was in law school, I was involved with that. Primarily, my work was with the national trial team at the University of Tennessee College of Law. So that was a fun experience. We it would essentially be presented with a set of facts in a case, and then you would try that case in different competitions. So sometimes as the plaintiff, sometimes as the defense. But it was a really rewarding experience. Teaches you the finer points of trial practice, how to really conduct an effective cross-examination. But I think the difference between that experience and what I do now is in the moot court world and the trial practice world, you have a defined universe of facts, right? Whatever facts are presented to you in that packet, that's all you can use.
Yeah.
The real practice of law is much different than that. Facts are constantly evolving, and sometimes you have to make changes on the fly that you did not expect, and you're not handed just a packet of facts at the beginning of the case. You have to develop those on your own.
Yeah. No, interesting. But not all. I've had enough conversations to know that not all schools have, trial practice as part of the curriculum, right?
That's right.
The University of Tennessee is one of those that does have a good trial program.
They do, and I was very, very lucky. My trial practice professor was a sitting federal magistrate judge who had practiced here in Knoxville for many, many years, and so getting his insight, not only as someone who had practiced and tried, numerous jury trials, but also having the experience of sitting behind the bench and watching numerous jury trials, that was invaluable. And you And for our final project in our trial practice class, we actually try this case. So it's the culmination of work throughout the semester. And you walk into this this federal courthouse, which here in Knoxville, we have a beautiful federal courthouse. And you walk in and you see the United States seal on the ceiling, and it's just this majestic room that you're trying your mock trial case in.
Yeah.
It's a pretty neat experience as
Sure.
a second year law student.
Yeah, you're probably shaking a little bit when you walked in.
Yeah, no, well, and it sets the expectations pretty high, right? So when you go to some other courthouses, maybe in smaller counties, state courthouses across the state, it's not quite as posh as what you may have in the federal courthouse.
Yeah, no, I bet. I was reading about some of the questions you answered. I mean, it looks like you had a pretty high profile case you worked on a few years ago.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that? I think.
Yeah, so that may be the church case. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting case, and kind of outside of my employment law arena, but we were asked to represent one of Knoxville's oldest. It's an African American based congregation, and I could actually see the church from my office window here. But there was some division in the church, and we were tasked with representing the church itself. And so it was a really interesting experience. It was probably the first high profile piece of work that I had, just because it was covered quite a bit locally. But we got to delve into some really interesting constitutional issues, First Amendment grounds. Ultimately, we're successful in convincing the judge that the court did not have jurisdiction to weigh in. And our position was, this is a religious institution. The court can't step in and make decisions on these matters. But got to work really closely with the pastor there and his administrative staff. An incredibly rewarding experience. I have a picture on my desk over here of I suppose the newspaper reporter took the picture, but when the court announced the judgment, saying that we won, they took a picture of my clients, and their face is just, I think, equal amounts astonished and also just overjoyed. And it's a really satisfying picture for me to have. So it was a fun case to work on. Very thankful to have had the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, very cool. No, I mean, you always look for those kind of cases that kind of, sort of validate what you're doing, right? Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah. No, interesting. So just to wrap it up here, what do you want to tell the audience, leave the audience with, and what's the best way to connect with you?
Sure. I guess one thing I would leave the audience with is as an employment lawyer, this is something that's been incredibly important to me over the years. Is, I heard in law school, and even some in practice, that as lawyers we don't make the facts. You just kind of have to argue the law, and you have to argue the facts that have been presented to you. With all due respect to anyone that has told me that throughout the years, that's not true. As an employment lawyer, if I get involved early enough, if my client calls me before a situation blows up, I can help them navigate dangerous waters, complicated issues, and we can come up with a plan to make sure that they are sitting in the best position, to make sure that their facts are as favorable for them as possible. And so that's something that I would say that it is, if you own a business out there, if you help run a business, if you make decisions for a business, make the phone call to your lawyer early on to get that advice, rather than waiting until after the fact, because it can be an incredibly beneficial phone call. It can be a phone call that really changes the course of whatever difficult situation you're navigating. And it's kind of goes with the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's worth it to make that call. And I can be reached on Twitter at Brandon L. Morrow, or you can reach me through email here at work, bmorrow@kramer-rayson.com.
Cool. So it's interesting that you said Twitter is your first point of contact. Is that typical these days, Twitter?
I'm not a big
You're a young
tweeter
guy.
myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'll be honest, the community out there, especially for lawyers, is pretty outstanding.
Is it?
And yeah, and so it's a great place to kind of crowdsource information, to bounce ideas off of people. And I'll be honest, when we were going through, there was you'll probably remember back around the holiday season, there was a real question about what the Supreme Court was going to do with the vaccine mandate issue
Sure.
and all of that. Getting the most up-to-date legal analysis, I wasn't looking through some legal research website or anything like that. It was Twitter. I knew the people the experts on the ground who knew what they were talking about, and I could go and get real-time updates on what was going on there. So it's a great resource if you know how to use it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's funny, just as an aside, I've always seen tremendous power in Twitter.
Yeah.
And to me, it's such a travesty that as a stock, as a performing stock, right? It hasn't exploded.
Right.
It doesn't make sense to me.
No, I agree. It's and certainly right now with the
With
litigation
Elon
going
Musk.
on, litigation going on with Elon. We're kind of seeing some pulling the curtain back a little bit to see what's going on there. But as a lawyer, it's a great resource to kind of connect with other people in this community. Again, I don't tweet a lot myself, but I certainly
But
read a
you
lot.
consume it. You consume
That's
the
right.
information. But the thing is, you got to get rid of the noise. A lot of noise, a lot of opinion.
Sure.
So
Sure. You really have to cultivate, I think, who you follow and that sort of thing. Otherwise, you'll be overrun with things that you really have no interest in and that distract from what you're trying to gain from it.
Yeah. Anyway, that's really interesting. I'm glad I asked you that question. It's really interesting to know that. So good. Well, listen, I will let you go here. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So again, for everybody, Brandon Morrow with Kramer Rayson here in Tennessee. And this is hosted by EmotionTrac, and we're a legal tech platform that helps trial attorneys prepare for mediation and jury trials with our platform that collects insights with an AI-powered platform. So thanks a ton, Brandon. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Jonathan. Take care.
You bet.